over to the sheriff's candidates, and we're starting with Dean Bush, who drew first.
Marge, I understood we're supposed to stay seated, so I'm going to stay right here, if that's all right. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Marge said, my name is Dean Bush. I'm your Ford County Sheriff. I've had the opportunity to do that for almost 12 years now. You know, you've all kind of followed me in my professional career here. But a little bit about me personally. I actually grew up in the south end of Ford County. I went to school in Mineola. When I graduated from high school there, I came to Dodge City to come here to school. Actually, the first year the school opened, I came to school here. When I was here and going to school and working, I got interested in law enforcement. So in about 1973, I joined what was then a brand new Dodge City Police Department Reserve program. Did that for a couple of years as I continued to work and go to school, and actually served the last 2 years of my tenure at that as the commander of the local reserve program. I've been a Kansas certified law enforcement officer for 36 years now. I went full-time on the Dodge City Police Department after completing my time as a reserve officer, and about 30 days later, Richard Wolf, the sheriff at the time, called me and asked me to come and talk with him. And I guess the rest is history. I've been at the sheriff's office most of that time since. Other than a time that I took off a few years and bought into local business. We did very well with that. Finally sold it out, and I came back to the sheriff's office. I served 10 years plus as undersheriff of Ford County, so that gives me about 22 years of law enforcement leadership here in Ford County. You know, from a sheriff's perspective, you all see the uniformed people in the white cars with the blue stripes. That certainly is the most visible part of what we do. Probably what you don't know, though, is, from my perspective as a sheriff of Ford County, and as any sheriff in Kansas, my biggest responsibility and the county's biggest liability is management of the jail. That's number one. And the majority of my time has been actually probably doing that function. One of my second biggest liabilities is, and the county's biggest liabilities, is civil process. And I spend a lot of time dealing with that aspect of what I do. We are the stewards. The sheriff is the steward of the court. We have the responsibility of serving the papers. We have the responsibility of the court security. If you go into the courthouse, you see the guys in the white shirts there. They work for the sheriff's office. They work under us. So I think you'll find that I'm experienced, knowledgeable, and well-trained in all aspects of running the sheriff's office. And the sheriff's office is extremely diverse. I think you'll find I'm well-versed in the budgeting process. I think you'll find that I'm well-versed in the challenges that face our community. I think you'll find that I have an excellent working relationship with not only the local but the state and federal authorities. Work with them all the time. They bring resources to the table that we can't do on our own. I think you'll find that I'm active in very many community organizations, and I serve on many communities in the community beyond what I do as sheriff. She's holding up the stop sign. So.
Good evening. I'm Lee Hawes. I'd like to thank the Republican Women of Ford County for hosting this, putting this on. We've got a great crowd. I'm glad to see that. I'm a fourth-generation cowman, rancher. My family's been ranching in Ford County since 1884. We've been here through a lot. I started out my career as a young man, cowboying, working on large operations, making my living off the back of a horse. I moved from that into farming, and then from that I moved into outfitting and created one of the largest outfitting operations in the United States. This led me to work in many countries with many environments, many business challenges. My wife, we've been together, been married to her for 35 years. We have 3 children, all grown. The biggest thing for me, other than managing this mic a little bit, I was approached to do this. I looked around, I'm like, surely there's got to be somebody else to do this. But, you know, there is a point in time when we look around and go, no, it's time for something else. And so I'm here, and we'll take your questions, and we'll go from there.
we're going to start with questions. So let me start over here with the, I apologize, that seems to have a ringing. That's going to drive you crazy. Let me know how to fix it. For the sheriff's table. Could you please discuss the qualifications in education and training you have that you feel qualifies you for this office?
Well, I think I've already touched on that a little bit. 36 years as a certified law enforcement officer, 22 years of that in management. I spent time beyond that as a deputy sheriff. I spent time beyond that as chief warrant officer. All I did all day long was arrest people. So I think I've pretty well experienced when it comes to the job. I think you find that I'm pretty well trained in what I do. Been to more training seminars than I can name. Of course, every law enforcement officer in the state of Kansas is required to have 40 hours of continuing education a year. So just by nature of the law, you end up with a lot of that. But I try to stay on the cutting edge of what's out there when it comes to law enforcement. I don't just go to school to go to school. I try to go to schools that I think really benefit us. Same way I do with the people that I lead at the sheriff's office. We look closely at the schools that they're supposed to go to, and I fully expect them to bring something back to everybody else that's in our office and share that with them. I think that makes our training dollars go a long way. So.
Thank you. Well, for starters, the state defines the qualifications to be a sheriff or a high school diploma or the equivalent of qualified elector in the county. This means you're registered to vote. And basically that you haven't got a record. Now those are really the qualifications listed for the job. The other thing interesting to note, according to the state of Kansas in statutes 19-825, if the sheriff is unable to fill his office, the county clerk takes his place. That's important to note because, yes, it is diverse what the sheriff does, absolutely. It's budget, it's jail, it's peace, and process. But, how do you define and where do you balance that at? I say a sheriff should be on the street. You should see him on the street. He's your highest elected official, law enforcement official in the county. He's what people look up to for leadership. He's who the people underneath him look up and see if they're on the job, hold them accountable. I think we need to be paying people. If we've got too much to do in the office, then we need to be hiring more office help. If we need to be spending more time managing the jail, then we need to hire somebody else to help manage the jail. The citizens of the county elect you to be sheriff, the highest elected law enforcement official in the county. So you've got to balance that out. I think the people out on the street come first.
Okay, so 1 minute each.
Actually, they changed the law this year. 19-825 says the undersheriff now becomes the person in charge, not the county clerk. That law changed this year. I was one of the people that advocated that. We've been pretty involved with the legislative process for a number of years now. The Sheriff's Office is a very diverse organization, and I have people in place that manage some of those particular departments that are extremely good at what they do. Years and years of education, years and years of experience. I'm fortunate and very blessed in the people that we have working there. Of course, there are a number of layers of responsibility there, and I think you'll find I am in the community an awful lot. I see you people on the street.